Welcome to the first August edition of Let's Talk Criterion, and we'll be featuring two films in this edition, both by the same director. That's Kon Ichikawa, The Burmese Harp and Fires on the Plain, both coming to the Criterion collection on 4K UHD. Kon Ichikawa isn't a stranger to the Criterion collection, and neither are the two films we'll be featuring in this edition, as they were both available as DVDs in the collection, spine 378 and 379 respectively. Kon Ichikawa was a famous Japanese director, and he was well known for his anti-war films, The Burmese Harp and Fires on the Plain. He was born in Ise, Mie Prefecture as Kon Ichikawa, and when his family kimono shop went broke, he moved to live with his sister. As a child, he loved drawing, and he wanted to become an artist. He was also a fan of Jampora, or samurai films. In his teens, he decided to become an animator, and to that end, he attended a technical school in Osaka. On graduation from the school, he found his first job. That was with a local rental film studio, and then he quickly moved on to feature film as an assistant director, and he worked with directors Yutaka Abe and Nobuo Aoyani. In the 1940s, his studio merged with PCL and Toho, responsible of course for the Godzilla franchise. He was actually one of the first group of the Toho staff that broke away from the labour union during the Toho strikes. He made his first debut as a director with 1001 Nights with Toho Studios. Now, he also contributed to the Tokyo Olympiad, documenting the Olympic Games in 1964. He gained international recognition in the 1950s with his two anti-war films, The Burmese Harp and Fires on the Plain, and also with the technically strong period piece he directed, An Actor's Revenge, which was about a kabuki actor. Now, The Burmese Harp is based on a children's novel of the same name, written by Michio Takayama. It tells the tale of Japanese soldiers who fought in the Burma campaign in the Second World War. A member of the group goes missing after the war, and the soldiers hope to uncover whether their friend survived. The graciousness amid the suffering and desolation of Ichikawa's first anti-war film is not a reflection of a Christian filmmaker's worldview, or indeed even a filmmaker with avowed religious convictions. Ichikawa once said himself, "I had become aware that men are unhappy. You could even say they're in anguish, and so the only way to show a real man is to show an unhappy one." But in The Burmese Harp, Ichikawa grapples with the questions of suffering evil and meaning with which people of faith must grapple. His characters, Japanese and Burmese Buddhists for the most part, cope with the seeming disconnect between the search for ultimate meaning and the hardship of life, just as Christians and those of other faith traditions do. The protagonist's ultimate conclusion about his role in the midst of life's suffering is remarkably similar to that reached by the most famous of biblical sufferers, Job himself, and it mirrors a Christian understanding of the relationship between humankind and God. Now, the film tells the story of a company of Japanese soldiers who are stationed in Burma. Now, these soldiers are far from home. They know that the war is essentially over for them, and their homeland is in a state of desolation. The tides of war had turned against Japan, even in Burma, the narrator tells us. All of Japan has been heavily bombed. Many are dead. Many are homeless and starving. Our country is in ruins. It is unbearably hot, and they are having trouble finding enough food to sustain them. They don't know what lies in their immediate future, or whether they will even survive to return back home, and they don't know what awaits them when they do return. So they do something that one suspects is very uncommon for soldiers in their situation to do. They sing. And they do not merely sing, they sing wonderfully, in harmony, with gusto and precision. Now, the Allied soldiers are unfailingly portrayed as decent human beings throughout this film. The British officer in charge of the onslaught against the holdout Japanese unit agrees to halt the shelling so that Mitsushima can convince the Japanese commander to surrender. The British soldier even wishes him good luck in his endeavour. The Japanese unit is holed up in a mountainside cave fortress, very similar in fact to that one portrayed in Clint Eastwood's depiction of the system of tunnels and caves built by the Japanese soldiers defending Iwo Jima in Letters from Iwo Jima, which of course could have been influenced by this film. After being nursed to health by a Buddhist monk, Mitsushima escapes to traverse the Burmese countryside. He's wearing the monk's robe that he has, and before he can cross paths with his unit, he comes across a ravine that's littered with the ropey, decomposing soldiers' corpses. He's fairly overwhelmed by this, but he realises his second chance at life is inherently intertwined with his mission to help the souls of those who were not as lucky to come to a peaceful rest. So interestingly enough, while the soldiers have every right to believe that the music could very well be coming from the spiritual realm, they insist on taking its transitory presence as proof that Mitsushima is alive. The Burmese harp, such as the titular instrument suggests, plays songs without filling them out, and it's a slight film that suggests the heavy human toll of war without actually presenting it. Now, the Burmese Harp, as I mentioned already, did have a previous DVD release and is also available as a Eureka release through Masters of Cinema. They licensed a print from the Japanese owner's Nikatsu studio, and they digitally removed a handful of momentary instances of heavy print damage. But they did mention at that time that overall they were very good source materials. Now, this is a 4K digital restoration. The restoration effort by the Criterion Collection and Janus Films involved cleaning up scratches and improving contrast in the film, and that results in a high quality image. The release comes with a 4K UHD disc and a Blu-ray disc which contains the film and these special features. Interviews with director Kon Ichikawa and actor Rentaro Mikuni. There's a trailer and new English subtitle translation, and an essay written by the critic and historian Tony Raines. And cover art for the disc is by Michael Boland. The Burmese Harp is an eloquent meditation on beauty, coexisting with death, and remains one of Japanese cinema's most overwhelming anti-war sentiments. It's both tender and brutal in its grappling with Japan's wartime legacy. The film has a running time of 116 minutes and is in black and white and comes in a 1:37:1 aspect ratio, and it releases on 4K UHD and Blu-ray in the US on Tuesday the 5th of August and in the UK on Monday the 15th of September as existing spine 379. Ichikawa's films are marked with a certain darkness and bleakness punctuated with sparks of humanity, and Kon Ichikawa's other anti-war film that represents these themes is from 1959, and it's Fires on the Plain. Now, this film is part of a very small number of pre-1970s war films that show war in its truest, ugliest state. A hopeless nightmare where no one really wins, as all hints of hope are removed from the picture entirely. A work of complete and total nihilism. Even though history is written by the victors, with events like the First and Second World War being entirely necessary for defeating the evils that have unfortunately started to gain mainstream popularity again, films would often focus on the triumphs instead of really discussing the toll all of this takes on our souls, as we look inward, questioning our humanity that makes us say never again in the first place. Even with anti-war films, there are very few works that remove any semblance of hope beneath the cruelty, blood and dirt of war. There is always some kind of glimmer of light at the end of the dreary tunnel. But then there are works that are so pitch black and nihilistic in their approach to not only war, but the very idea of our humanity as we question it, if there's any point in saving ourselves at this point. Come and See, for instance, is the obvious first choice for most, but a film that needs to be discussed for its symbolism and the resounding influence it would have on anti-war films going forward is that of Kon Ichikawa's Fires on the Plain, a hellish, surreal nightmare following a Japanese soldier's journey of survival in the Philippines during the final days of the Second World War. Now, the opening moments of Fires on the Plain have Ichikawa at arguably his most confrontational, setting up the idea of what our central character as well as the audience are in for going forward. Private Tamura, Ichi Funakoshi plays the part, is suffering from tuberculosis, just another thorn in the side to an ailing, demoralised Japanese military, as their final days are numbered. Now, the fight isn't coming to them, and they're physically incapable of taking it to the impending US forces. Yet we still find Tamura being lambasted by his superior as he orders him to commit suicide if he can't be admitted into the military hospital a few miles from them. It's a simple dialogue response scene, but how Ichikawa frames the scene sets up the proposed journey we're about to encounter. Instead of opting for straightforward over-the-shoulder shots, Ichikawa takes us on the cusp of breaking the fourth wall, with Tamura and his commanding officer framed centre screen as they look just past us. The general is invasive and dominant, and he shouts at us, while Tamura remains dead-eyed and submissive as the ravages of war and starvation have begun taking their toll on him. Now, these two responses and reactions to the situation speak volumes as to the nature of Fires on the Plain. Many complex ideas and observations of war's grasp on our souls. The general is reactive, angry, and seemingly desperate for some sort of order and resolution, while Tamura is malleable, at least where we are in the story, as we see a husk of what he was, now broken and fatigued, that even the order of suicide for him is not far from the realms of his rational thought. Ichikawa cleverly baits us here with the pretense of hope throughout. His symbolism goes beyond just the visual communication of death as a result of war and conflict. He also paints his death with this light coat of hope that many other war films tend to overindulge in, as they try to find the intrinsic goodness in humanity that prevails over evil. Ichikawa's symbolism goes yet deeper the further we trudge along with Tamura in the film. For instance, there's a particular telling scene of him dropping his backpack and some yams and a grenade fall out. But as he packs the grenade back in, he seems to forget the yams in a moment, prioritising a literal symbol of death over something that can provide life. It's obviously a source of sustenance for these soldiers, but its symbolic meaning within the region goes beyond that of basic nutrition. But it's not in the yams or pillars of smoke that we earn Fires on the Plain its tags as being one of the bleakest, darkest and most horrifying depictions of war. Cannibalism is a frequent practice and occurrence throughout the film, as Tamura encounters desperate soldiers clinging on to life, willing to do anything at all to survive spiritual and physical death. It goes hand in hand with the physical, moral and spiritual degradation found within Fires on the Plain. Now, the film is all shot with Ichikawa's distinctive eye for style and tone, with which he's known, separating himself from the more Japanese auteurs, for instance Kurosawa and Ozu. There is some striking imagery and comfortably dark humour as well to be found within Fires on the Plain that ranks up among the most gorgeous and equally terrifying images found in any film. Ichikawa was a sort of enigma amongst Japan's great directors. He had an incredibly productive career as well that spanned 60 years and considerable films, from his first picture in 1936 to his last in 2006. War is a degradation of humanity, and that is just what Fires on the Plain wants to tell us. Ichikawa takes the intrinsic good in humanity that is implied within most war movies, and he subverts expectations entirely. And by giving us a false sense of hope, with dashes of it scattered throughout the film, he shows no interest at all in letting them gestate and blossom. Instead, he wants them to wither away and die, alongside mankind's irrational attempt at trying to save themselves from certain destruction, as each character shows the true nature of themselves and indeed humanity as a whole. Now, Fires on the Plain has a new 4K digital restoration. It's uncompressed mono soundtrack to accompany it, and there's one 4K UHD disc of the film and one Blu-ray with the film and these special features. We have an introduction by Japanese film scholar Donald Ritchie. Programme featuring interviews with director Kon Ichikawa and the actor Mickey Curtis. A new English subtitle translation for the film, and an essay written by the critic Chuck Stevens. And once again, we have the cover art design, which is by Michael Boland, of course, who has been a regular contributor for many years to the Criterion collection. Fires on the Plain still remains one of the most powerful works from one of Japan's greatest and most versatile filmmakers. It has a running time of 104 minutes. Once again, it's in black and white and has an aspect ratio of 239:1. And it comes to the collection as a 4K UHD Blu-ray combo in the US only. And it releases on Tuesday, the 5th of August, as existing spine 378. Next time on Let's Talk Criterion, we'll be taking a look at the rarely seen Egyptian film by filmmaker Youssef Chahine. That's Cairo Station from 1958. So until next time, from me, as always, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.